Thank you for joining us today on our launch of Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2015, which is the latest release of this extremely powerful ERP solution that really does now combine power and agility. We've got a great audience attendance this morning, so thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to join us. It's just fantastic that we've got that many people actually on. We're certainly seeing a lot of interest in NAV 2015, so I'm delighted that we have the opportunity to talk to you about it today. So in terms of who we are, my name's Paul Ince. You may have seen me on one of these webinars before. I'm a solutions architect at TSG, and I'm joined today by everyone's favourite NAV product lead, Mr. Dave Roars, and someone who you may not have met yet because he's relatively new to the team, Ian Wilson, who's a pre-sales consultant with a long history of NAV. So I'll just give them an opportunity to say hello to you.
Good morning, everyone.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so in terms of what we're going to actually cover off today, perhaps the most radical new feature of NAV 2015 is the new tablet client, which really allows you to become that flexible worker that you always wanted to be. We'll talk about Microsoft's strategy both here and in the transition to the cloud. We'll look at that in terms of cloud power, but also how integrating NAV with Office 365 can bring real business benefit to you, because that's obviously important. Ian will give us a live demonstration of the new version, and including that tablet client, and Dave will actually give us details of current pricing and promotions and some of the bits and bobs around the transition from the current versions to today. Now, we'll round it off with an open Q&A session for you. And just a couple of points of order on that, really, which is really technicality. All of your microphones are muted, and that's really to avoid background noise. So if you have a question, please enter that in the question box that you see on the right-hand side of your screen. I will collate all the questions during the webinar, and then between us, we'll answer as many of those as we can at the end. Now, I can see who poses which question, so if we run out of time or if the question is very specific to you, then we'll follow this up after the webinar. Okay, so without further ado, I'm actually going to hand over to Dave straight away to give us some background and some information on this fantastic release. Dave, it's over to you.
Good morning again, everybody. Firstly, I'll just like to say that in my view, this is probably the most exciting release of Dynamics NAV I've been involved with, and I've been involved with a fair few now. The new culture at Microsoft of accepting that other companies exist is really most refreshing for those of us who worked with them for a period of time. And what we're going to look at today in the presentation is obviously the changes in Dynamics NAV. But what I'd like to say really as well is first that for me, there are three key areas for what Microsoft are doing. The first of these is the mobile offering. And on the screen in front of you, providing the technology is working for everybody, which I believe it is, you can actually see an application that Microsoft have created for NAV that is actually running on Android, Apple, and on Microsoft Surfaces. So what they've actually done is create an application that allows users to utilize the investment they already have in other technologies to actually spread the use of Dynamics NAV throughout the business. What they've actually chosen certain limits on this, so what they've actually done is they're only running on devices where the screen is bigger than 7 inches, and they are running most of the relatively up-to-date operating systems on these devices. They haven't gone all the way back. What this also gives us, and this is something quite new for Microsoft, it gives us a very, very nice development environment, because what we've had to do historically is develop for a standard desktop PC, then develop for a mobile user using it over the web, and then create a special app just to run on a tablet. With the latest technology, what they've actually done is created a linked client, which means effectively you can make changes on the desktop PC and that they appear on all the other devices. And that's really all I want to say about mobile, apart from the fact that Microsoft see it one of the 3 key areas that we're actually going to exploit in our businesses over the next few years. The second key area that Microsoft are talking about continually is probably for a lot of people what I'd refer to as the elephant in the room, and I do hope you like my very, very colourful elephant in this slide. It's the cloud. The cloud is the elephant in the room. Nobody's quite sure what it is, nobody's quite sure what they're going to do with it, and nobody's quite sure how they're going to apply for it. But it's an absolutely key focus from Microsoft, and they're actually investing heavily in this. At the moment it takes a very small percentage of spend is actually in the cloud, but a lot more will become cloud spend over the next few years. From a NAV point of view in the cloud, the key thing is the software. The 2015 software is the same software whether you deploy it on premise or you deploy it on the cloud, and that cloud can be a Microsoft Azure cloud, or it can be a private cloud, or it can actually be in a data center of your choice if you want it to link to other products and want them in the same data center. I believe that everybody should consider cloud at the moment, but the key thing is it's not necessarily the best solution for everybody. So what it's something that you must talk about. You must talk about with us. You must talk about with other suppliers. But it isn't a must-have because it's got to be right for your business. And on cloud, that's really where I'd like to leave that now. The next and the final 3 key points, because I know what you all want to do is really actually see the demonstration of the software, is actually the integration with the Office products. And one of the key focuses for Microsoft are basically making all your products one, so that you actually log in to one place in the morning and that's it. And very originally they've called this single sign-on. And in single sign-on what you can actually do is you actually log into your Office 365, and on the menu to the left-hand side of the screen, what you can actually see is amongst your options is Microsoft Dynamics NAV. It's a single sign-on system when implemented in this way, which effectively means that once you're in Office 365 you just click on that option and you're straight through to Dynamics NAV without having to log in again. So effectively what we're talking about is having a front page to your system, which is your Office 365 portal, with Dynamics NAV, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, SharePoint, all etc., all available to you off that page. The idea being to again spread the information and increase the productivity of your people. Now, as I want to say, I don't want to go on and on about the technology or on about what Microsoft think, so at this point I'm just going to pass you across to Ian, who's going to show you through some of the product and primarily show you some of the new features that are now available.
So good morning, everybody. With the 2015 release of NAV, Microsoft have attempted to simplify the user experience for end users. The improvements of the technology behind the scenes, such as OAuth support for web services, merge utilities, multi-tenant architecture, etc., they're also important, but of less interest to me as a business consultant. So today we're going to take a look at some of the new features of NAV 2015 that will help streamline the way your business works on a day-to-day basis. Just before we get into the product, I'll just mention a couple of areas which are important but don't necessarily demo well, but I think will be welcome additions to the product from a lot of customers. First of all, cache management. There's been significant advances in this area, specifically in terms of electronic payments and automated reconciliations. A new feature called Payment Reconciliation Journals enables users to import your bank statements into a new form within the product, and it'll automatically apply payments made to your bank account onto open customer and vendor documents in the system. And as part of these enhancements, Microsoft have announced a partnership with a new bank data conversion service hosted on Microsoft Azure, and it's integrated directly into NAV 2015. The enhancements available without additional charge to all NAV customers using the new version NAV 2015. Your first bank account is free, but if you have lots of other bank accounts, then there is a charge for additional bank accounts. One of the other things which is now available in the starter pack within NAV 2015 is projects, so you can run jobs and timesheets functionality with the starter pack. And some small additions like being able to enter quantities when you're posting general journals, and those quantities do post through into the general ledger entries to allow you to do analysis on your general ledger postings. And also another nice addition on the general side is that you can tell the system to omit the GL account description, so that will force the person who is using or posting general ledger journals, it will make them put more informative descriptions in when they're posting the journals. So let's just have a look at some of the system functionality that we're going to demonstrate this morning. First of all, we're going to talk about user interface element removal. A typical scenario in NAV is when you've got a new starter and you want to give them access to a restricted number of functions in the system. You'd usually create their account and set up their permissions and then give them set up a role-tailored center specifically for them by removing things which you don't want them access to. NAV 2015 helps streamline this process. You've always had the ability to remove parts of the user interface for functions that are not in your license range, but now you can also remove the elements that are not in the user's permissions as well. So NAV 2015 will present a much simplified role center for the new user. For example, I've created this new user called Paul, and he's been employed to input a lot of new customers into the system for me. I've created his account and given him permissions to do just that. When he logs in, you'll see that his role center is focused on his job role without me as the admin having to create a specific role center for him. You can see here that he's using the standard sales order processor role center, which you'll all be familiar with, but it has limited capabilities available to him. All he really has access to is customer functions. It's exactly what I planned for him to be able to do. So he can just really create new customers. If he tries to, for example, open the customer statistics, he'll get an error message saying he doesn't have permissions to do that. And as his competency with NAV grows and I feel more confident in giving him access to the additional areas of the system, all I need to do is expand his permission range and the client will automatically adjust to give him the functions which he now has access to. So I'm just going to switch over to my account because I've obviously got a lot more permissions within the system. And I'm going to talk about something which is directly on the role center, and it's enhanced queues. Just as the client loads, we can see here that enhanced queues, or expressive tiles as they're sometimes known as, it's basically leveraging the same idea that you'll see on the modern versions of Windows, version 8 and up, and also in Windows Forms. They're special queue tiles that really apply custom formatting to any numerical value, such as the number of ongoing sales orders, invoices, and we can also have custom tile icons now as well. The queues can also show an indicator above the tile, which is based on data values that the tile reflects. This provides a visual signal of the status of the data on conditions for favorable and unfavorable thresholds, for example. For example, a tile can show a red bar if the number of days sales orders are delayed is over 1 week, as in this example here. The initial thresholds are set up by the administrator, but they can be changed on a user-by-user basis to fit their workflow solution better. You just simply change the thresholds here, and then the tiles will change to indicate your preferences. As I mentioned, there's new images. You can change the images that display on the queues or set up the queue without an image. There's several new images to choose from. The stack image is pretty much the same functionality that we had before, but the image changes to reflect the number of documents being displayed. A higher number, the more pages are displayed on the stack image, for example. We can also base the tiles on normal fields now. In previous Dynamics NAV versions, you could only set up queues based on floor fields within NAV. And in 2015, you can also use normal data fields, which expands your possibilities for the queue data source, such as using query objects or source expressions. We can, as you can see here on this tile, we can now have decimal values, and we can also use text data types. So this provides additional data aggregation possibilities. Instead of just count, we can use functions such as sum, max, min, and average. And also, you can customize the format of the values which appear in the queue. For example, you can set the number of decimal places, or place a symbol such as a plus, minus, or percentage sign before or after the value. So this brings some new possibilities to float your KPIs right up onto your Role Center dashboard there. Another new part of NAV which will please a lot of people is that Microsoft have at last introduced mandatory fields. It's a great feature and something, as I say, a lot of customers ask about, and it's generally needed some custom development work in the past. In the earlier versions, it was common to make mandatory fields different colors to simplify the data entry for users, for example. But I'm happy to say that the option is now part of the standard functionality. If you're used to seeing web pages where you have to fill bits of information, and you should be able to immediately see how Microsoft have done it. The mandatory fields now are marked with a red asterisk. So here, for example, if I'm creating a new customer, we can see that the fields which are mandatory have the red asterisks displayed, and I wouldn't be able to create the customer without putting some information into those fields. It is user definable, so you can change the fields yourself within the system to make sure that the users are putting in information which we need at a later stage. Another new thing is if I go to sales quotes and just click on new, people who've been using NAV for a while will notice that there's something missing from the top of the form here, and that's basically the document number. There's a new feature now in 2015 which is called autofill the number field. Basically what it does, it removes the number field from the page and moves it up to the caption bar. This eliminates the need for hitting tab twice when entering quotes, for example, or orders. It's not a big thing, but at least you don't need to explain to new NAV users what the button next to the number field is used for anymore. And it will be slightly quicker to enter orders or quotes, for example. So just to demonstrate, now if I just tell the system that I'm going to enter a quote for a customer 10,000, you'll see that it does generate a document number because of course we need to refer to that, but it's put there, and we can also see it in the title bar on the window as well. So I'll just enter a few lines here into the system. And you can see the asterisks come up on the lines as well, so I've marked those as mandatory fields. And I'll have 10 of those lamps. Okay, the next thing which you can see on this form here, excuse me, is that we now have totals on documents below the lines here. This is a great addition and it should have been added a long time ago. Everybody wants to know the total of an order or a quote without having to hit the statistics button, which you would do in the past and bring the form up. But of course, sometimes you don't really want your profit being exposed to some of your staff. So just having the totals on the bottom here is a good step forward. NAV users can now see all the important information about an order directly on the document below the lines which they're working on. The information is updated as we enter new lines. So if I just order a bike, that changes the quantities and the totals at the bottom. And all sales and purchase document pages are enhanced with information about totals, VAT and discounts at the bottom of the lines, as you can see on the screen there. Another thing which is often requested by customers, which is now part of the system, is the ability to email documents directly from within NAV. In prior versions, again, it's always been through custom programming or you simply purchased an add-on. New functionality is available now through the ribbon on the different document types, for example, orders, invoices, and the quote, which I'm working on here. It also works from the Windows client, which we're looking at here, and from the web client as well, and the tablet client. We can email or documents. So sending sales documents or reports to customers and colleagues has never been easier, quicker, and more straightforward. If I just give a little click on that and say I don't want to do a follow-up, you can see that we get a requester which pops up that automatically fills in the email address of the customer who you're sending this quote to with the subject, and it attaches the document as a PDF in this case. I can choose to edit the message in Outlook if I wish, or if I don't, I just click OK and it sends it straight away. But there you can see that the quote has been generated and attached to an email ready to send. So talking of documents and reports, that leads me on to the next section, and that is being able to customize the standard built-in reports. And you can also, in this version, use Microsoft Word as your report layout tool. So let's just have a look at how that works. I just go to the report layout section, and I'm just going to have a look at report 1306, which is the sales invoice. You can see here that the selected layout is the RDLC. That basically means the built-in NAV reporting language. And if I just run the report and preview it, you'll see an invoice which has popped in the background, which looks pretty much like a NAV document. You can usually spot NAV documents a mile off because they all follow the same type of layout. But of course, if I change it to Word and run it again for that same invoice, you see it launches Word with the same information. It's the same invoice number, but it looks a little bit better, and we've got our company logo at the top and the lines and the totals are laid out a little bit better. But of course, I've just said you can customize these reports, and indeed you can. I'm just going to go through this and go into custom layouts, and there aren't any there. So sorry, I'm just going to click on New, and this gives me the chance to insert the Word layout into this custom. So I've got that. I'm just going to change this copy of just to my Word report. And we've got on the process section of the toolbar this edit layout. Basically what that does is it puts this report layout into Word, and it'll allow me to change it. I know a lot of times when you're talking to customers about invoices, they say to you they can't find the invoice number So simple thing to do, what we're going to do here is just to make the text a little bit bigger on the document number, and maybe change the color to blue to make it stand out. The address blocks at the top, I'm going to make them bold so they stand out at the top of the document. And in the area for the item details, I'm going to make that into a nicely formatted table. I'm going to choose something like that. And also at the bottom, I'm just going to put a message saying, thank you for your order. Center that. And we'll make that a little bigger as well, so it's nice and visible. So I'll just save that layout that I've just changed and exit Word. And Nav will now tell me that it's noticed I've made a change, and do I want to import it? And if I say yes, that then imports it in. And if I go OK, and if I change this now to my custom layout and then choose which one I want, you'll see that the custom layouts are the My Word report. And if I run it now and preview that same invoice that we've been looking at, you can see now that the invoice number's big, as I asked for. The header block is emboldened and the lines are nicely formatted with the message saying thank you for the order. So you can see that's really powerful. Before, you used to need the developer tools to customize reports or ask your nav partner to do that. But now, it's in the hands of you to get creative with your documents. Okay, so I'm just going to switch now to the next new feature that Microsoft have introduced, and this is called the Simplified UX, or Simplified User Experience. The idea of it is that it's supposed to cover the basic sales and purchase scenarios for smaller businesses, something like companies with just a few users doing basic business transactions. But when I've started looking at the simplified pages, I've seen that it's more than just a set of new pages where fields and actions have been removed. There's also some nice new additional functionality here. I'm just going to run through a few examples now. I'm just going to look at the items and open this particular item. So some of the master data pages, they have sub-pages now that display things like records from other tables. As an example here, this item card has got a fast tab called Sales Prices and Sales Line Discounts, where you can maintain your pricing structure for this particular item. You can see here I've got a customer price group and also a quantity break as well. Previously you'd have to go off to separate pages to do this, but I think having all that information on one page just makes the entry of your items a lot quicker. Talking of which, we can now use templates for your master data. The record has an option to be saved as a template and used when creating new records. The action pane provides this functionality, so we can save our templates, or we can, when we're doing new products, we can use the pre-configured templates. As you can see here, I've got two. I've made one for finished goods and raw materials, and if I edit them, I can see that the default things it'll pull in, like the general product posting group, the VAT group, and the inventory posting group. So it just saves you some keystrokes when you're setting up your new items. Same with raw materials. We've got the different things there. So that just really is a nice way to bring new items into the system. Also on the item cards, there's a new action which is adjust inventory. Basically the user can just enter a new quantity and Nav will post a positive or negative transaction automatically to adjust the inventory accordingly. It almost seems too simple to be true. I guess a prerequisite of this functionality is that you don't use locations or bins or any of the more sophisticated inventory setup, but it's still nice for simple scenarios. Okay. How many people have ever had a customer ring up and complain that you've sent them an invoice and it's wrong because you've overcharged them or something like that, and you need to make some corrections into NAV, so you've got to start raising credit memos and make sure all the stock adjustments and everything are done? Well, good news. Microsoft have heard the pleas to make this easier, and let's say this invoice here. I've supplied these Mexico swivel chairs, but I've charged £10 too much for these. It should have been billed out at $168 instead of $178. So we now have some new actions here called correcting, and I've just hovered my mouse over the button there, and all in this simplified UX, or the new user experience, we now have some good tooltips. Whereas if you hover over the buttons, instead of it just telling you what the button name is, it gives you some text to let you know what actually is going to happen when you click the button. So I'm just going to correct this invoice. Let's find another one. So I'll just correct this. I'll just ignore the posting date. And what that does in the background, it creates the credit memos, and then it recreates the invoice ready for me to correct the pricing error and then post the correct invoice to the customer by either emailing it or printing it out. Some additional new things that are available in this UI is, if we go to customers and have a look at this particular customer, we now have a fast tab for statistics. So this surfaces up a lot of the information that you would usually get on the fact boxes on the right hand side, but of course now we have some graphs here, which of course you can drill into as you'd expect to take you to the relevant documents which are making up the quantities displayed on the graph. If I just go to quotes, one of the steps in quotes is the usual workflow is you enter a quote and then you change it into a sales order and then you ship it and turn it into an invoice. Of course, for simpler scenarios, we can now go straight from a quote to an invoice, cutting out the step of creating the sales invoice, and just simplifies that workflow a lot. Talking of workflows, if I click on the help icon here, you'll see that when you're using this simplified UX, that the help system is basically, instead of just telling you what a field will do or what type of data it's expecting to have entered into it, it gives you some sort of task-based help here. So you can get a bit more help on, for example, from a quote, how to make the quote. It takes you through it, and then you have all of the field descriptions there. So that's just a little bit better on the help side as well. Okay, so I'm just going to have a look now at the tablet interface. The TSG team, we've had a chance to get acquainted with NAV 2015 and its new tablet interface in recent months. It's based, as Dave was saying, it's based on NAV 2015 native application pages. The new tablet apps are getting great reviews from our NAV experts, who are describing both the approach and the results thus far as you know, a success, especially for a first version. The new tablet client lets users navigate their business data using a fast and fluid interface from the device they prefer. As Dave mentioned earlier, the Dynamics NAV app is available for iPad, Android, and modern Windows tablets. It does run on Windows RT as well as Windows tablets running Intel processors. So basically, it allows you to do more on the go with capabilities such as send to Excel or Office 365, as Dave mentioned. And we can see here we've got up-to-date charts and KPIs. We can email sales quotes and invoices. It feels very natural, it's simple and intuitive, and it looks good, I'm sure you'll agree. If I compare it to what was released as the first version of the web client a few years ago and the limitations that had, this is a major step forward. From a usability standpoint, there are a few scenarios I can see for this interface. The first group of people who would use the NAV tablet client would be those who are out of the office performing specific transactions. For example, fulfilling a service order on a piece of equipment. You could take a photo with the camera that's built into your tablet and attach that right onto the app, so there's no more taking pictures with your mobile phone and struggling to get it back into NAV. It's just seamlessly there and ready to be attached to the service order. Other potential applications for the app, it's not only as a dashboard for senior execs and board members who would use this type of functionality to look at the KPIs and high-level info, but also things like a touch screen in production environment to report output and consumption directly on the shop floor, or for registering warehouse transactions such as picks and putaways, or even as a retail interface in a store. It'll be interesting for me particularly to see what kind of add-ons come out of TSG's R&D department that will utilize this new tablet interface. One obvious one that I thought about was having the touch ability of your tablet to allow users to write directly onto it, for example, to sign documents. So let's just have a quick poke around the interface. As you can see, we have our expressive tiles, we've got our customer list, and I've got my graphs and my items, my reports, which have been running in the background for me. And, you know, I can just click. Obviously, I'm using a mouse and keyboard here because you wouldn't be able to see me waving my hand around on the tablet. But yeah, I can just go to sales orders, look at the open ones, and I can view an order. And the system will go back to the live NAV and bring the information ready for you to either enter new lines or create a new order if you wish. And also you can post documents once they've been created. So when you're there in a meeting with your customer, you have access to all of the stock, all of their history, and as I say, you can just manage, you can release and reopen. And of course, when you're out and about and you release this order, it's straight into the warehouse, for example, for picking and packing, and also, you know, your stock planners can make sure they've got enough inventory to cover what you're out selling. Of course, as you'd expect, the tablet client does respect the role centers that you have assigned to you. So here's another one where it's using exactly the same program, but I've just changed into a role center for one of the execs who has a bit more financial information available to him or her at the touch of a button. So there's lots of additional improvements that I've not had chance to cover during this session, but I hope I've given you a flavor of some of the exciting new features and benefits that NAV 2015 will bring to your business. And with NAV 2009 mainstream support ending in January 13th next year, it seems like a perfect time to hand back to Dave, and he can tell you about licensing details and any discounts Microsoft are offering during the coming weeks and months.
Thanks very much for that, Ian. I hope everybody got a flavour of what NAV 2015 is going to be bringing to the party. What I want to go on to now is just explain for the existing users of the product what they actually get as they upgrade through from their existing product to NAV 2015. 2015. So this is always with Microsoft isn't quite as clear as it should be. So what I want to do really is start off with what's in each pack. And basically what Microsoft have done now is when you exclude the development granules, there are only two ways of buying the product. You can buy a starter pack, which includes financials, distribution, warehousing and job costing, and you can buy an extended pack which adds to on top of the starter pack and gives you advanced warehousing functionality, manufacturing and service management. And those are the only two things you can buy that aren't to do with development that either you want to do yourself or we want to do for you. And that really is it. They've really made it very simple from that point of view. We then have, because of all the versions of NAV we've had previously, we then have to have the discussion about the upgrade path. And there are, as is always with Microsoft, certain exceptions to the rules, but what we've actually got is I've tried to summarize it into a really very simple map of where you go from. So at the moment it is possible that you either have a product called Standard, a product called Business Essentials. Both of those just map to the starter pack. So what you actually get is a starter pack with the same number of users, all the development granules as you actually have at the moment. As I say, in a very small number of cases there are exceptions to that and you actually do get the extended pack, but let's regard that as being what you get. The other two versions, and what I refer to the other two historic versions of NAV that are out there, are Professional and Advanced Management. And both of those map to the starter and the extended pack. So if you've got all those products, and again, sorry to caveat it, but as you have to with Microsoft, there are still some very small exceptions where this doesn't happen. You actually get all of NAV. So in the starter and extended pack is absolutely everything that exists inside the NAV product, with the exception, as I say, of the development ones. Just as a quick note for you, those of you already on 2013 or 2013 R2, it actually maps exactly the same. So your standard user, if you've got the starter pack, it maps to a starter pack at 2015. If you've got starter and extended pack, it maps to starter and extended pack at 2015. All your users carry forward, as I say, and all the development granules carry forward exactly as you have them at the moment. As the majority of people on this call are actually existing users of NAV, I'm not going to go into the offers that are around at the moment for companies looking to purchase NAV for the first time. All I would say, if any of you are looking to purchase NAV for other companies inside your organisations, that there are some very good offers on there and that are available at the moment for both the standard, so both the starter and the extended pack. Okay, we have two promotions at the moment that are actually available from Microsoft. Promotion one is called Extend for Less, and what you actually do in Extend for Less is a special offer on a package deal of the extended pack and extra users, because obviously if you're putting more functionality in your product, Microsoft expects you to have more users using it. I've deliberately not put prices on these slides because there are certain criteria when you last took a promotional offer. So as I might be misleading you, all I will say on this is if you've got the starter pack at the moment,
Muted.
get the
Unmuted.
by the extended pack with a couple of extra users on it for less than you're actually paying for you would normally pay for the extended pack. Microsoft are also very unusually doing an extra user offer, and these extra user offers only apply to 2013, 2013 R2 and 2015, and basically as long as you are buying 3 extra users or more, they are giving you circa 15% off the price of the software. As in all cases with Microsoft, the enhancement plan is still calculated on the list price of the software, and there are conditions as to when you last took a promotion on your NAV. But these really are very good offers, so I encourage anybody who's thinking of starting to get more functionality into their NAV and requires the extended pack to talk to us while these offers are on, and anybody who's looking to get more users on their 2013 R2 or 2015, if you could please talk to us as soon as you can, and we'll try and sort you out the best product price for that product. With that, I would just like to say thanks very much for attending. I'll pass you back to Paul now, who will actually run the Q&A session. Thanks very much, everybody.
Okay, thanks Dave, and thanks to Ian for that fantastic demonstration. Particular interest is being shown, I think, in this webinar from the people watching it on the tablet client. But I've actually got a question for you guys watching, first of all, before we go into questions from you, and it's just really to try and gauge what version of Microsoft Dynamics NAV you are currently using, if you are. So I've just got a quick poll on the screen. It would be great if you could take part in that just by simply selecting the appropriate option on the screen. So which version of Microsoft Dynamics NAV are you currently using? First choice is, you're not using it at all, either because you don't have it or you're not using it. Version 4, version 5, 2009, or 2013, and I'm including 2013 R2 in that as well. So I'll give you a few more seconds just to cast your vote, and then I shall actually show you the results of that, because it's quite an interesting one. Okay, I'll just close that poll, and I'll share the results of that, and you can actually, from everybody that voted, nearly half of you are actually using 2009. So that's quite interesting. That gives us an idea of maybe where to pitch some of these questions. Okay, so like I say, we have had a couple of questions on a similar topic, so I will just go through some of these and then pitch them out to everybody. Okay, so the first question is going to be about the tablet. Are all tablets supported? What are the requirements for the tablets? Can you give us a bit more information about what somebody needs to do if they have a tablet and want to use NAV 2015 on a tablet? I'm going to give that one to you, Ian.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I thought we'd get a lot of questions about this because it's obviously a fantastic new feature within 2015. And as we touched on a little bit in the presentation, you can use a modern Windows tablet, including RT, Android and iOS, which is basically means iPads. A couple of system requirements or limitations is that the screen size must be at least 7 inches, so that rules out any mobile phones, even the ones which are referred to as phablets, the big 6-inch ones. Basically, Microsoft have decided to limit that for now, but my understanding is that it is on the roadmap at some point in the future to make it work on the bigger smartphones. As well as the screen size needing to be 7 inches, it has to be a minimum resolution of 960 by 510 pixels. And as far as operating systems go, any of the modern Windows tablets will work as long as they've been upgraded to the latest service packs and Windows updates. For Android, you need to be running Android version 4.4.3 at least, and Apple devices need iOS 7.1 or higher. The hardware requirements for Android and Windows, you must have a tablet with 2 gigabytes of RAM to enable that to work. So those are the requirements for the tablet.
Okay, thanks, Ian. Okay, next question. Which one shall I pick? Does 2015 work with versions of Office other than Office 365? Dave, could you maybe shed some light on that?
The answer is absolutely yes. NAV works with a range of Office versions. At the moment, we've obviously used it with 365, we used it with 2013, and it also works with 2010. We haven't as yet gone back any further than that, but those are the ones we can definitely say yes to at the moment.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Stay on, because I've got a good one for you. Okay, so this is a question just to put you on the spot about costs. I've heard that the upgrade is much easier and cheaper for this new version. We're on version 5. Can you confirm that's the case?
Okay. The upgrade for a version 5 site will be slightly easier. The reason it will be slightly easier is Microsoft have done some work on the development tools that allow you to take across existing bespoke. Where it becomes much easier as an upgrade, to ask and answer a slightly more generic question than the one that was asked, is that once you're into the 2013 and upwards, the upgrade path between them appears to be very quick. Now, one obviously can't give numbers of days because everybody's sites are different, but things like a full 2013 to 2013 R2 upgrade seems to be around on a lot of sites, be around 4, 5, 6 days. Now that's very different from the upgrades from previous versions. We also believe a 2013 or 2013 R2 to 2015 will probably be of that sort of region. We just have not as yet, because having only had the software for 30 days, we haven't got enough experience yet of that upgrade to give totally generic answers. But yes, they are working very hard on this, and they're working very hard to reduce your cost of ownership of the product by making upgrades from one version to the next easier.
Okay, thanks Dave. Very good answer there. Okay, so next question is about different versions. A couple of questions on this actually. The sort of summary of the different questions that we've had on this is about the quick release from last year's version to this, and essentially, is this going to be the way that it's done going forward? And I'll answer this one as it's something that I work with Microsoft on. I mean, the short answer is yes. There's a commitment to have a new release every year, and that really meets the release strategy of Microsoft in general, which is more frequent releases, but releases that have a smaller impact on some of the changes. And the benefit of that really is that your users will only have to get used to 1 or 2 changes, and you can sort of take your users on that journey with the product. Now, obviously, if you're on an older version, then you've still got that leap. But once you're on the latest version, those upgrade paths, as the previous answer that Dave gave to the previous question indicated, the upgrade's very quick. The changes are very small. So you're seeing a lot more iterative changes in all of the Microsoft products. Okay, next question is around the cloud. Obviously, that's a big part of what we're talking about in terms of NAV 2015. Can you move to the cloud if your system is significantly customized? Dave, would you like to take that one?
There are many different versions of the cloud, and there is no definitive answer really to that question. In the majority of cases, you can always take the product to the cloud, but it might have to be in the private cloud because of the nature of customization or interfaces that you already have in the system. So it becomes actually necessary to have it in a private cloud because you can't coexist with other systems and other people's systems because of the nature of your integration. So apologies for that, because that's not really in many ways an answer, but what it does do is just say the answer is yes, you can get to the cloud, but we need to look at everyone on a case-by-case basis rather than just giving a generic answer.
Okay, thanks, Dave, and thanks to everybody who's submitted questions. There are a couple more questions that have come in, but they're quite specific, so we will follow that up with you on an individual basis after today's webinar. Okay, so thank you for taking the time to join us today. That's all for now. If the webinar has sparked an interest in NAV 2015, or if you've got a question that you'd like to ask directly, then the team is obviously going to be more than happy to help you with that. And we've placed the details of how you can contact us on the screen. We do have a web chat facility now on tsg.com, so feel free to get in touch with one of our colleagues on that, and they will direct you to the specialist, really, who will be able to give you some good advice. Or you can email us at info@tsg.com, or why not use the well, very old-fashioned method these days, it seems, of talking to us on the telephone, 0845 1111 888. That's 0845 1111 888. Have a great day, and once again, thank you for joining us.
Muted.